Greetings, everybody, and welcome here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're back with our series for the month of September, which involves obscure prog bands doing battle. So I'm calling this the Other Prog War. So today is day 6, and this is battle 6 in the first round. And the two bands that were chosen for me today are, of course, like all the other bands in this tournament, somewhat obscure. So those people who really love prog music and are always searching for new stuff probably know almost all these bands, but for the most part, the vast majority of people won't know them. So we have two today, Greenslade and their self-titled album coming in, released in 1973 on the Warner Brothers label. This is a British band, and they're up against ACI Tiefenrausch. I believe that's how you pronounce it, Tiefenrausch. Tiefenrausch maybe might be a more proper way of pronouncing it. Released in 1982 on the Harvest label, and they are German. So this was a tough one for me. I listened to both albums and I gave them the exact same rating. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the two albums, and then at the end I'm going to have to make a decision. So maybe by then I'll have made up my mind. Not likely, but we'll see. Okay, so we'll start with Greenslade since they were the first one given to me. It's their self-titled debut album. The cover was done by Roger Dean. Excellent cover. You can really feel that Roger Dean flavor on here, but it's not Yes, and it's not even sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Anyways, it definitely has its own feel to it. It's almost a kind of when I look at the album cover, it's like there's a goblin on there. It's almost like J.R.R. Tolkien type feel to it. That's the feeling I get from the album cover. Sorry, I was drawing a blank on who I wanted to say. So it's the first track is kind of a somewhat sinister sounding song. I find it a little bit on the sinister side. The vocals are very high range, but they're falsetto. There's some nice keyboard parts on this particular track, and as there is throughout the entire album. There's a lot of really good keyboards, and I found out as I was listening to the album, and I wasn't hearing any guitar, and so I wondered, why am I not hearing any guitar? So I looked up the band a little bit so I can maybe there wasn't one, and it turns out there isn't. There's no keyboard, there's no guitar player on this album. Bass, double bass, keyboards, synthesizers, mini Moog, all those things are on here, but no guitars. The bass and drums are very forward on this, and I can understand why they might want to be. You want to have some kind of a rhythm section if you're going to be playing keyboards the whole time. Really solid keyboard playing, though. I think it's among the better keyboard playing I've heard in the tournament so far. It's definitely falls well within that range that I like. And for me, it's not that I dislike keyboards. It's the keyboard part is never usually the problem. It's usually the synthesizers, or if it is the keyboards, it's inappropriate use of them, dominating and overbearing and coming in at the wrong time and too much of them and that kind of stuff. But there's none of that here. The vocals, on some of the tracks are a little bit subdued, not as dominating as maybe you would get if you were listening to Yes or Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I find Greg Lake's voice very powerful. The song "Deceiving Man," a lot of the vocals are subdued on this, more organ, some church. It almost feels like a bit of a church organ here, I think. I don't know if it actually is. It's definitely not the type of church organ you hear with Rick Wakeman, but it may be a toned down version of that. or it may be a keyboard that's made to sound a little bit like that. That's probably more likely what it is. The tempo song, more pastoral, and then you get the Menage, which is some great bass on this track. I really think this was one of the best songs for the bass on this album. But some nice keyboards as well on this. So the overall feel of this album is keyboard dominated, of course. Some high range vocals, but not as forward as you would get with a lot of people that have this really high voice. Great album cover. I think the album cover really is what you're going to find when you listen to the album as well. They're a British band. I quite like their feel. I think they would fit in very well in the Caravan, Canterbury scene very well, I think. And just a great album, I think. Now we have to talk about the other album, the ACI and Tiefenrausch. I believe that's how you're going to pronounce it. That's how I'm pronouncing it. If I'm wrong, somebody will club me for sure. This is another keyboard-dominated band, very dominated. I think this is more dominated than even the Greenslade. There's also the music that they play. It's not calypso music, obviously. It doesn't really sound like calypso, but it has that flavor. It has that feel like you're in the Caribbean. When I'm listening to it, that's what I'm feeling. I'm not sure that I wouldn't want to compare it to calypso music, but I think that it definitely gives off that vibe. Very strong rhythm section on this album. It has a bit of an aquatic feel to it at times too. It's like they're trying to make it feel like you're underwater and living in an aquatic environment. And, based on the album cover, which has a giant, almost fish-like thing and a person on it, I think they're trying to capture maybe that Atlantis feel to it, The drums are quite forward on this album as well. The Moog synthesizers dominate throughout the album. Now, normally with synthesizers, synthesizers can make or break the album. In some cases, there's too much of them. They're too atmospheric. They're too symphonic, and they drown out the music, make it murky and not enjoyable. And also, after about half of the album, I start getting a headache from listening to them. But these aren't like that. These are Moog synthesizers. He's used them tastefully to create some different sounds, much like what Pink Floyd does when they create all of those quirky noises that fit into the music. There's a lot of that here, but I don't find it at all bad. There's a bit of a psychedelic flair to some of their songs as well, and a very spacey sound to it. Like, they're definitely well within the Eloy Pink Floyd range of music. Like, they fall in that category very well. This is very symphonic prog with multitudes of interesting noises and stuff. So henceforth, there is no vocals on this. That hurt it a bit. If there had been some vocals on this at some point of any kind, maybe a normal voice or anything like that, I think this album would have won it fairly easily. But because there was no vocals on it, I quite enjoyed the instrumentation, but because there was no vocals on it, I feel like I want to go with Greenslade. I just think that moving forward, I think that album is going to be something that I will grow to like more. This one is one of those, put on once in a while, kind of like ostrich tentacles. You get, it's enjoyable once in a while, but I don't want too much of it. And I think that's what would happen here too with this group. They're not nearly as psychedelic as ostrich tentacles, but they definitely are dominated by instrumental. And I tend not to be an instrumental lover of instrumental albums. On the whole, there of course are lots of stuff out there that is good, and even if it is all instrumental, it's still pretty good. And this is very good. I just think I wish there was some vocals on it, and then probably I would have maybe chosen that one. Anyways, so Greenslade is going to win this. I like their album. I love the album cover. I love the way they use the music. I would have liked some guitar on this, but there wasn't any. They tend to be keyboard driven. And ACI, great band. Unfortunately, they came up against a band that maybe they could have beaten, but they didn't quite make it. So anyways, that's it for battle number 6. And we will be back again tomorrow with another one. So please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. If you had any comments about either of these bands, please put them below in the comment section, and I will read them. And if there's, I pretty much always answer them. Sometimes if they're just making a statement, I may just agree with it. I may just hit the like thing. But if they're asking any kind of question or telling me something that's new to me, I generally make some kind of comment. So anyways, I hope to hear from you then. I'm sorry, bang the table there. And we will see you on the next episode. Take care. Bye.